Anyway.
Well, hello there, welcome to the Obi-Thorn Alliance. In today's video we're going to be talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the first episode that came out on Disney Plus, and we're going to be doing it as it comes out with the 5 other episodes. And joining me today is Luke.
Hey, how you going?
And also, if you can like and subscribe and comment on down in the description, that'll be appreciated as well. So what was your thoughts about the first episode coming out of WandaVision?
I thought it was really good. I think comparing it to the first episode of WandaVision, it came out of the gates a lot faster than WandaVision. I think WandaVision took a little while to warm up to. I think this episode we got an action scene in the first couple of minutes, so it was
And the budget of it and how it was shot, you would think it was actually in the movies. You would be in the cinemas.
Yeah, definitely. I think it had a very much a movie feel to it. I think what is 40 minutes long. I think if you add another hour to that, you would have got a really good movie. So the fact that we're going to get 6 episodes, it's very exciting. It's like going to be I think it's going to be it's going to be as good as a 2-part movie almost. Well, it's going to be the length of 2 movies, and I think it's going to be good, like very good.
Yeah, and coming from WandaVision, because they're completely different shows as well. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think, is about developing the characters and having a goal for them to defend and to take down the organization, I believe is LDM.
Yeah, I think they gave it a few names in there. There was a mention of the Flag Smashers as well. So I guess that's something where to find out more. I think the first episode was kind of timed well, that we've been given enough. It's got us looking forward to next week, and they're not, but they haven't given away too much yet. And this is one of the first shows I reckon I'm actually going to watch as it gets released weekly. I tend to be someone that's misses the boat. Like I took on WandaVision. I didn't start watching WandaVision till the last week it came out. So yeah, I don't know if I like this suspense waiting for it each week. But so what were some of the events that happened in the show? What was the first? What was the opening scene? What did it lead off with?
Basically, the first opening scene, we saw Sam, the Falcon, having the shield that was passed down to him from Captain America. What I would assume was him going to Washington, and the action scene was a flashback.
Yeah, that's what I took from it. So the action scene showed they mentioned something about being near Libya or crossing over a border, and Falcon leaped out of a plane and was chasing these helicopters that had, it seemed like a US soldier captive.
Yes, civilian or something.
Yeah, and he rescues him, and then there's a team on the ground that's talking to him, and the character that's talking to him from the ground we see later in the episode, who seems to be some kind of soldier that's, I don't know, goes undercover. So we're left with that. What do you think about that in terms of an action scene?
I thought it was shot very well, and I think Falcon's not the most powerful superhero, but because he works from the military, he kind of has the military backing, and I thought the action scene was pretty cool. It was pretty cool how he got the civilian in the end, and kind of he's not as powerful as superheroes, but he kind of gets the job done the best he can.
Yeah, so we saw us quite cool watching it. It was fast paced, like him flying around, going between the helicopters. A few helicopters blew up. I think he threw someone out of a helicopter at one point, and then they were going through canyons. And it was like a cool chase where the guys, I guess we assume they're part of the Flag Smashers or whether they're something different, but they jump out of the plane and they have kind of these paragliding parachute suits, and somehow they manage to go through canyons easier than he does, and he has a suit where he can control how he flies. I thought it was a bit strange.
He actually hits the rocks because his wings are longer than their flying. Their
wingspan. Yeah, when I was watching, I saw them jump out of the helicopter. I was thinking, why? Like, where do you hope to go? Like, he can fly. Like, you're trying to get away from a guy that can chase you, and as we see, eventually catches them and gets who he's after. And what's the next scene after that?
Well, he also apparently fights a wrestler as well.
Yeah, I can't think of his name because I don't follow UFC, but he's a famous UFC fighter. When I saw it, I recognised the guy's face, and I would have thought maybe he was an action hero. But then we saw in another review they mentioned his name and said he was a famous UFC fighter, and I recognised the name at the time, but I know it eludes me now who it is. But yeah, I'm not a UFC fan.
Do you think not going into that, knowing who he was fighting against, you would have been like, oh, why are you losing here, Falcon?
I think so, but I don't rate Falcon as a hero. Like you look at him, he's not an overly strong man. So, like in terms of a fist fight, I don't really think he's going to offer too much resistance. But I think if you knew who that wrestler was or the fighter in real life, you probably would have been a bit more excited, and you would have thought a bit more about it and thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. Whilst he was able to fight back against Falcon, if he was fighting against the Hulk and winning, I would have been thought that's not possible. But and then so the next scene is that we were introduced to Sam taking the shield back to like a museum or a memorial for Captain America.
There was actually a scene when he talks to his friend that was on the ground, and he was fixing, I believe, his bot in the suit. Yeah,
that's right. And they were at a table, like in a marketplace, and he's just fixing his suit, and you think, is that something you do out in the open? Like, you'd be a bit worried about that.
And then some people come to thank him because the husband says, you saved my wife from the blip.
It is interesting. The show kind of shows heroes as being famous in this. Like, there's several scenes where people ask for photos and recognise the heroes. It kind of reminds me of The Boys, and The Boys, how the heroes are famous but they love it. This is like the opposite. They don't really want to be famous.
But they kind of, because of what they did, they had that.
Yeah.
And then we get introduced to this app about this organisation that kind of calls up people that,
Yeah, it's like, it seems as though he's robbed you'd assume a bank. He's got a thing of large suitcases of money, and these other people are being told to meet at this place at a particular time, and then when the notification goes off on their phone, they all put this mask on and everyone's wearing the same mask, and I guess it's some kind of distraction technique, because when the police then come, they don't know who the criminal is, because it's just people all running around and they all look the same. And then we see that this soldier, the one that was talking to Sam at the start, he then tries to confront the criminal, and then we see that this criminal's quite strong. He throws him like 20 or 30 meters up against a wall, and then he like kicks him in the head and like knocks him out, so he looks very, very strong. But I guess we don't know who that is yet.
No.
I'm sure there might be some kind of link, like it might be when they reveal who he is, it might be a villain that's in the comic books, which tends to be common in the Marvel movies. Characters that you would only know if you were a fanboy of the comics, so we might find out who that is. So there's also the scene
In
where
the museum.
where he hands in the shield. So tell me a bit about that scene.
Well, he kind of does his speech that Captain America was special, and people can look up to him, and then he hands in the shield, and then one of the politicians or someone says you did the right thing, and then we get introduced to Brody, who's War Machine.
Yeah, so he's in it briefly, and do you think that that's the right thing for him to do, to hand in that shield?
Well, if he feels like he doesn't want to accept it because he doesn't feel like he deserves it, but as we find out at the end, kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, this whole idea of the legacy of Captain America, why we can't just, he died, he saved everyone, just leave it alone, why someone else has to become Captain America. Like, we don't see them finding someone that's going to replace Tony Stark. Like, why does Captain America get a replacement? And then later on, when they talk about it, how Captain America's a symbol for the people and he fights for justice, and it's just such an American thing. Like, it's just typical of Americans wanting to be patriotic and just try and make out like they're better than everyone else. Where Captain America's just a hero. Like, why does he become the one that has to be replaced? So yeah, I think it's fair that he retires the shield, and I don't think, why does Falcon need to become Captain America? Like, he's already a hero. He's not a great one, but he does have one. He is one. What was the point of the shield? What does the shield do for him? Like, well, he could just be the Falcon, and they repaint his suit to be the Captain America colours, and he can be Captain Falcon or something, American Falcon, or...
I guess the shield is the symbol of hope and freedom.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, the shield is... Well, it's a shield, but somehow Captain America uses it as a weapon by throwing it at people, but...
Yeah, it's made by Wakanda.
Yeah, and obviously Captain America has the ability to throw the shield because he's powerful, but there's no way that Falcon could throw that shield. Like, he just doesn't have the power that Steve Rogers did. He would not be able to throw that shield and do the things that Steve did. He'd probably struggle to hold. Oh no, the shield's actually quite light because they mentioned what it's made out of. But he wouldn't have the ability to throw it and do all the special things that Captain did. So it's just a man and a shield. Wow, that's going to be real helpful. Then introduced to Bucky comes into the show. So in this episode, we don't see the two meet each other yet.
No, they're kind of on their own separate journeys, and basically one's dealing with money problems, and the other one's kind of grieving, kind of dealing with what he has done, and kind of has a list of wrongs that he has to pay, and kind of people that he has to deal with. Yeah, so we see a flashback scene where he's still the bad Winter Soldier working for Hydra, and he breaks into some kind of hotel and kills a few people, and there's one like innocent bystander who's just trying to get into his hotel room, and he goes, "Oh, don't kill me, I saw nothing," and he still manages to kill him. And then we push forward and we see him wake up and it's a nightmare. Yeah.
And then we're faced with an interesting scene where he sees his therapist, which I thought was quite funny. What are your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, it was a pretty cool scene, the 3 steps.
Yeah, so his therapist is... I don't know if she'd be a good therapist. She's pretty rough with him and like kind of puts him down. But then Bucky's not very helpful. He won't admit that he has nightmares and he has problems. And then so he has these steps which are, I guess, to help him... I guess the idea is if he can apologise and make up for the things he did, that will help him move forward. Like, that's what she's obviously trying to help him do. Like, he's 106 years old and all of his friends are... that he grew up with are dead. He's obviously got heroes and other people that he's friends with now. But he has very few people he keeps in contact with. And do you remember what the rules were?
Step 1 was with the list, like not causing damage and stuff. Yeah,
something like that. So he had to go and like admit fault for what he'd done and not cause damage, and then try and own up to it. So we're faced with this scene where there's this lady in a car who's somewhat involved with Hydra, but she's a politician, and Bucky helped her become powerful. Well, like not physically powerful, but helped her become a politician. And then he finds her and kind of like hurts the guy she's with, and like somehow controls their car. He puts like some kind of thing under the wheel, and then he has power over the car, which is a bit strange. And then I don't know, he basically goes up to her and says like, "I'm the Winter Soldier. I helped you with this, and like I'm sorry." And that somehow makes up for the things he's done, and he crosses that off the list.
Step one was not to like get into trouble or do anything wrong, because he did it with technology, but he's still...
Yeah.
And step two wasn't to hurt anyone, and he's like, oh, why isn't that step two?
Step one, that should be step one. But he does hurt someone, not majorly, but he kind of like bangs someone's head. And then...
Step three was...
something like own it, or like apologize. Like he basically apologise for what he did, or admit fault, something like that. And then I don't know if it directly follows it, but then we see a bit more about Bucky goes and has lunch with an elderly Asian man. He might be Japanese.
And first, that elderly man was having a scene with complaining about rubbish and saying, "Oh, you know, you're putting my rubbish in."
Yeah. It's like his neighbour. He's complaining about it, and then his neighbour had like a really funny name. It was like unique. I think his actual name was unique, and he described it. He goes, "Oh, my name's like Monique, but with a U because it's unique." And and then Bucky doesn't like want to get involved with it. He's just like, "No, leave it." And then they go and get sushi, and then we're introduced to like this female who looks like it could be a love interest of Bucky's potentially.
Yeah, he hasn't been on a date since like 1941 or something.
Yeah, and then he's the elderly man says, "Oh, he wants to go on a date with you. Will you go on a date?" And she says yes, and we later get to see that date scene. And I guess you wonder who this elderly man is, which we then find out later. What was the connection with him to Bucky?
Fortunately, going back to that nightmare scene, it kind of has a point to it that the person that he killed, who was a bystander, is actually his son, and he actually see the son picture in the father's room.
Yeah.
He's like praying, and Bucky was actually gonna admit, this is why I've done, but he didn't.
Do you think that will be a major part in this series? Do you think him telling this man will probably be like one of the final things that happens in the series?
Yeah, I think eventually it will probably happen.
Yeah, you think that will have to be something. If they're making a big deal out of this list and apologising, and the fact that this character was introduced, because I don't see him or his son being important to the Flag Smasher storyline. There has to be a point to it, and it must be this apologising for what he's done.
Yeah, he's got a list.
And then we're kind of introduced a bit more to what's been going on with Sam. So what are we faced with Sam?
Basically, when he comes back to his family, because he's told Brody, I've been away for 5 years, my nephews are now not babies anymore, they're little men. And then when he comes back, his sister's been working at like a fish charter.
Yeah, it's some kind of like a family business, and then they have a few conversations and arguments about what they should do with their family business. And you said this to me, and I agree that his sister's not the most likeable character.
Oh, she keeps bringing up how, I've been doing all of this, and I think she has a fair point, but it's hard to relate because we haven't seen it. She's more the one that... It's like when someone passes away or something happens, and then it's like, I went through all that, when it's like, well, he had to do all of this fighting to save everyone else, and she's kind of making it about her. Yeah,
he's basically saying, you haven't helped our family out. It's like, well, he was saving the planet. So
for other families.
Yeah, so if he didn't do that, you also wouldn't have a family. So he was helping you out. Like, for her, it's all about money and I don't know. It's a hard one, but I guess it's their Marvel's way of trying to show that these characters are relatable.
Yeah.
That we assume that superheroes are just these famous celebrities that get and do whatever they want, but this is showing that like they have everyday lives. I think there might even be a scene in there where we watched something the other day and they mentioned about how like in some of the comic books there's even heroes that work jobs. Like we don't assume that every hero is rich. And that sometimes people hide their powers because once you're known that you have them, you're expected to then be a hero.
Yeah.
And so then him and his sister, they're applying for a bank loan because they want to change their business structure.
Yeah, and then the bank person that works is like, oh, I recognise you, are you someone? And then Sam does his wing thing.
Yeah, and then he asks for a selfie and can they get photos? And then Sam kind of makes a funny remark because the guy goes, oh, how much money do superheroes make? And he's like, oh, well, we kind of do it a lot on goodwill and we get by people helping us out and doing us favours.
And he's working for the military.
Yeah, and he was kind of implying that this guy like should give him a bank loan, like that's how the world works, you help us out, which doesn't happen. They get denied the bank loan.
But I found it believable, but it makes you question, wouldn't Tony like have saved up like a trust for his superhero friends?
Yeah, I don't know who would pay them. I would have thought that the Avengers in some way work for S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, they're like a government funded. You'd think they'd be wealthy. Like whoever
can't all be on Tony though. Like you can easily blame him, but you can't just blame one person.
Oh, I don't think Tony would be the one to be responsible for paying them. You would think just like a soldier gets paid for going to war by the government. These guys are just advanced soldiers. They should get paid more, or they should be set up. So I would have thought that they would have got paid by whoever pays Nick Fury, whoever builds Avengers Tower. Like that can't be all on Tony. There's no way that's Tony's responsibility to pay for everything.
But it's like we see so many times when a soldier comes out to war, they're not really looked after, and it's kind of the same thing with Sam. He's been gone for 5 years, and then the bank person brings up, it's like, oh, you haven't been earning money, but it's like he's been gone for 5 years.
Yeah, you can't make money when you don't exist.
So yeah, unfortunately they didn't get the bank loan.
And I guess that's building up for a future storyline, or again trying to make the universe seem relatable, that something happened and there's an effect. Like these people disappeared for 5 years.
What do you do?
Which is, I like, because you got to think there's so many other movies or franchises that don't do this, where Superman has a fight with Batman and basically completely destroys a city, but then in the next movie the city's rebuilt and people are happy. Like that doesn't happen. It takes years for them to rebuild this stuff. Like there is an effect. Like superheroes do have a knock-on effect. Like literally every superhero movie, a bridge always gets destroyed. Like that. Like you don't ever want to be on a bridge in a superhero movie because it will get destroyed. But somehow they never talk about the cost of rebuilding that bridge. Where this show is touching on that people disappeared for 5 years. There was an effect. Like banks lost money, there was less people in the world, and then now that people have came back and suddenly they've got to, like you'd have to imagine if half the world disappeared, the homes of those people that disappeared would have got sold or bought or something happened to them, and then that person comes back and they're like, oh, where's my house? It's like, oh, you don't own it anymore, someone bought it. Like that's what you have to imagine would have happened. Or
a family member hopefully would have got the deed or something.
Yeah, but they may have sold it though. So you can't imagine that just because people disappeared, everyone just left things. They're like, oh, don't touch that person's house. They're coming back. Like they have to assume that everyone was gone forever. So this is kind of touching on what happens there. Because you remember in Endgame, they kind of show that scene where they go through a street and there's just these abandoned cars and houses and there's trap.
Ant-Man.
Yeah, and it looks like a zombie apocalypse. They haven't shown any more of that. Like you think that even the town in WandaVision, surely that town would have had places that got trashed and houses that would have got burnt down and people that looted and like if half the world suddenly disappears, you can't tell me people don't start going out and robbing and destroying things. But that town was perfect. This is kind of touching on what happens when the blip happened and then people come back. So we see that. So that's obviously going to build to something, and then I think from then that's when we get introduced to these idea of the flag smashers.
They have a phone conversation about what we should do, and then Sam's like, only me and you can know.
Yeah. That gentleman calls him and goes, I need to speak to you. There's something urgent going on. And he got bashed by this, who we don't know yet. Someone with powers that's a villain. I guess we do know from the trailer that is it Ramo or
Zemo?
Zemo's
He's not in the first episode.
He's not in it yet, but he is some way related to this. So they've built it up quite well in that sense. And
I reckon personally, if he's in episode 2, I reckon they'll start off with him kind of seeing what he's been up to since Civil War and kind of build up his story, and then we'll probably get the 2 characters meeting up at the end, something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then we we see Bucky go on this date.
Yeah.
And
they're playing Battleship.
Yeah, they play battleships and they're having a drink and they're laughing and joking, and she asks a few questions, and then they start talking about the Asian gentleman and how it's sad that his son died and he doesn't know how. And then that's when it kind of clicks, because it's probably he's the one that knows. Like the Winter Soldier knows what happened to his son. And then what happens there?
Well, like I said before.
Yeah, we see him go to his house, and then he knocks on the door, and then the guy's kind of, what are you doing here? And he's like, I owe you $10 from lunch or something, and he gives him money. And then he goes, I gotta go. And that's when you see the picture of his son, like a little shrine set up.
Yeah.
So they've set that up pretty well. And was there any more to the episode, or that's kind of the end of it?
So yeah, on TV, Sam and his sister are watching the TV, and then there's breaking news that they actually gave the shield to someone else. So it kind of makes you think, well, the person in the beginning, the politician or someone is like, we're proudly to present the new Captain America, and it's like, you said it was the right thing to do and now you're just giving it to someone else. So it's kind of like, well, I would assume it'll lead up to a storyline. Either he's a paid actor, or I think he's doing it for some reason, but yeah, will be interesting. Yeah,
you wonder what it is, or whether it's something else, whether he could be like a villain. Maybe this guy, because he said, it was the right thing to do to Falcon, and then he gives it to someone else. Maybe he had more sinister plans, and this gentleman that's going to be Captain America might be bad in some way. I don't know. I'd be surprised, if it, how do they just give it to another person? Surely they must have some kind of hero powers, or must be well known. You can't just interview for the job and you're going to be the new Captain America. It doesn't seem that easy. So it explains what we see in the trailer when we see there's a scene of him running out to a football game.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, that doesn't look like neither Bucky or Falcon. So now we know why. Yeah, so that's that explains a bit, and that's kind of why the episode cuts off then.
So does it make you look forward to episode 2 and the rest of the 5 episodes?
Oh, very much so. I think it's going to be really good. I'm liking the backstory we're getting for Bucky. I like that it's someone trying to make up for what they've done wrong in the past. I think that's a cool backstory to give someone.
He's got a lot of backstory and a lot of things that he's done in his life.
Yeah. It's kind of like the reverse of Wanda. Her backstory is showing that a lot of bad things happened to her in her life.
Tragedy.
Yeah, and she's at a point where she could go bad or good.
She doesn't know anything.
Where Bucky, he's done a lot of bad things in his life, but he is good. He is good, but he's suffering the consequences. Like he's having nightmares and flashbacks of what that. But it's good that they haven't made it that he becomes a bad character. Like he turned good and he wants to be good. Falcon's a character I don't dislike, but he's not special. Like I'm looking forward more to Bucky's storyline in this series.
Would you like them to make this Asian girl a love interest, or more that since he hasn't really got a good friend that they more become friends? How would you like that to kind of happen?
I think maybe friends. I think love interest comes difficult for him if he doesn't age at the same rate as other people, because she would eventually pass away and he'd still look the same age. I don't know if she'll feature anymore in the show. I think she was there to plant the seed for him getting upset and wanting to go see his friend, and then you realise where their connection comes from. So I don't know if we'll feature her anymore. What are you expecting episode 2 to look like?
Like I said, I think we'll get introduced to Zemo and kind of his backstory and his motives, and then I would assume they'll make it in episode 2 that the two will team up, and I guess we'll probably see. I wouldn't be surprised if Falcon and Bucky actually do the good work and the new Captain America, like the work that they do, he basically
claims that he did it or something.
I see that kind of happening.
I'm guessing they're trying to in some way tie up the reason as to, like, I know, like, we assume that Falcon and the Winter Soldier are in this show because they're the two potential candidates to take Captain America's shield. But whether it's... They're obviously going to find a way to try and tie them into the Flag Smashers. So Falcon's tied in because he works with the military, they've been doing intel, they've found this gang, and they're going to try and work out more. So I'm kind of thinking that Bucky somehow gets tied into it because maybe one of those people on his list is involved in the Flag Smashers, so he might he might go and try and make up for his sins, and then find out, and he'll learn about the Flag Smashers in that way. Because I can't imagine that they're going to be like, oh, there's this terrorist organisation, the Flag Smashers. Oh, we need 2 heroes. Oh, let's call up Bucky and call up Falcon. Like, I don't think that would be it. Because you would assume if that was the case, you'd be calling your best superheroes. Like, you'd be calling Thor and Hulk. You're not calling Bucky and Sam. So they have to have some other reason to be tied into this story. Do you think it's likely we'll get some kind of crossover with WandaVision?
Yeah, they can, like, say in a line or something, you know, on the news or something, like, oh, this town is, some weird stuff is going on where the events of Wanda happen. Like, they can do it without actually having the characters.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. That'd be cool, because we already knew that Falcon the Winter Soldier was meant to come out first. So let's assume that did come out first, that would kind of plant the seed for WandaVision. Because you may not know that. It'd be like a little hidden Easter egg, and then when you watch WandaVision, you go, oh, in Falcon the Winter Soldier, they mentioned this. But because we've seen Wanda first, it's not going to be that much of a hidden Easter egg. But if you were watching it, and WandaVision hadn't came out yet, and you saw them say, oh, there's this weird red wall that's surrounded around this town, you'd go, oh, I wonder what that is. So it would have been clever. So there might be some kind of crossover. Are you expecting any other characters to make an appearance?
I believe General Thunderbolt is going to be coming in and appearing in the show.
Who's that? I don't know if I'm familiar with him.
You know, the military officer from Avengers Infinity War and the First Hulk?
No, I'm not certain. I have to look it up.
Yeah, I think he's going to be appearing because I believe he's going to become the Red Hulk.
Oh, okay. Do you think there might be anyone else? Like you might see like Hawkeye or anyone cool like that come into it, or
Yeah, it's possible.
yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to episode 2. So we've got a few more days before that comes out. So we've given a bit of prediction what we think we would have. I guess we mentioned before you didn't want to put a rating on the show, but if you were to give it like a final comment, what would you say about it? Was it better or worse than you expected?
I guess my final comment, I don't know if you agree, but I would probably say it's more what you can expect from a Marvel property. I would probably say if you didn't like Wonders much because it made you think things and then if you were disappointed, I would say from how Falcon started, it's more action and character development. What Wonder is more mystery, and you think things and you're either going to like it or you're going to be disappointed. Well, I think Falcon will be more action and then the character development, and then by the end we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think so far it's been good. I reckon it's going to get better. I think more people are going to appeal to this than WandaVision. There's definitely some people that didn't give WandaVision the time of day, or they didn't understand how good it actually was, or there was people, we watched that Nerd Wars where there was people on the fence that just criticised it, and they were big fans of Marvel movies and still criticised it, which I find it hard to really hate a movie. Like, I think there's shows or movies I can watch and go, oh, it could have been better, but there's not many I really hate.
Hate's a very strong word.
Yeah, so I think they've set it up pretty well. I think it will be better and more likeable than WandaVision for more people. And I think episode 1 was a really solid start. I think it's built a good foundation. We kind of know what's going on. There's a bit of backstory, and then there's a lot of mystery about what's coming next. So yeah, there's lots to look forward to.
Got any final thoughts?
No, just looking forward to the next episode. It's funny, like I've said to you plenty of times, that I prefer shows that come out weekly. But then when I'm actually faced by that, I kind of wish there was more episodes to binge watch. So yeah, maybe my thoughts are changing on that. So so I guess we'll wait till Friday and see the next episode, and next Monday we'll review episode 2.
Yeah. Well, thanks for commenting on the first episode, and hope you enjoyed it. And I guess thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and see you for episode 2, and hope you enjoy that. Let the force be with you. Bye bye.